Hello and welcome to the World of Choices virtual event series, part of Junior Achievement Nova Scotia's programming. World of Choices Virtual is an interactive series that equips Nova Scotian students in grades 8 through 12 with the skills and knowledge they need to be better prepared for the future. Youth learn from passionate career mentors and engage in small group discussions about pursuing a skilled trades role or professional role. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, where our relationship is based in peace and friendship. We also acknowledge that people of African descent have been in Nova Scotia for over 400 years, and we honor those ancestors who came before us to this land. Today's event theme is Beautiful Foundations. We're thrilled to have you join us as we dive into the artistry and skill that goes into aesthetic jobs and design. We're fortunate to have four incredible speakers who will share their expertise and experiences in their fields. They'll share the in-depth processes for their roles and what inspires their designs. And now a thank you to our national supporting partners, Amazon, Avanade, Taco Bell Foundation, Imperial, KPMG, and CNA, to our national community partner, RBC, and our local supporting partner, Early Education and Childhood Development, or the EECD. Our first speaker is Sam Archibald, a creative director for Shortstop Agency. Shortstop was founded out of a love for the marketing game, but not for how it's played. Based in Halifax, Nova Scotia, it is an independent creative agency for brands who believe there's no I in creativity and business. While creativity is at the core of everything they do, finding ways to turn spectators into fans is what they specialize at. As the creative director, Sam brings a perspective from over 15 years working as an art director, graphic designer, and UX/UI designer. Sam is the chair of Pride in Advertising and Marketing, a Canadian organization building community among 2SL LGBTQ+ professionals and students in the industry. Shannon, take it away.
Hi. So
Hello.
wonderful to meet you, Sam. Thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
But Sam, can you tell us a little bit about how you got where you are today? What drove you down this path?
Yeah. So when I was their age and in high school, I grew up in the Halifax area, and I was speaking with my guidance counselor. I didn't have the fantastic opportunity that these folks have now with JA in this program, and I was honestly a little bit lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a twin brother who ended up going to a private school for hockey halfway through high school and was really much more the math minded, traditionally a strong academic student, whereas I was a little bit more, I don't know, different, odd, creative. I like to make skateboard videos growing up. And really, it sounds funny. I graduated high school, worked at a call center for about a year, and realized looking around that I didn't want to be doing that. Kind of being in the same, be 35 and be working in a call center. So I thought I needed to figure out what I wanted to do. And yeah, like I said, I grew up skateboarding. I wasn't the best at it. So I picked up a camera and started filming people that were much better than me. I produced and like shot, edited, created these kind of action sports videos. And my parents were like, you should go for film. So I ended up going to NASCAD for a few years, originally in film, realized what fine art film was, and I wasn't the most confident in expressing myself through that medium, or having a really strong artistic point of view. I felt like I was stronger in this commercial space. So I have a little bit of a background from a university level in the design aspect at NASCAD, but then I transferred over to finish some school in Ontario, specifically within an advertising program. And that gave me a clearer sense of kind of the role that I now kind of operate out of, which is I help a lot of businesses figure out ways to communicate themselves to others. And oftentimes that takes the form of advertising, but other times we're solving problems that are websites, we're solving problems that are not advertising, but rather maybe something internal to that organization. So that is a little bit of a long-winded way of saying that I kind of fell into it. I didn't know what I wanted to do until about halfway through university.
It sounds like there was a piece though, like that piece about something you were really interested in and how can I play with that? How can I transform that, use those skills developed? Which is a beautiful story. We talk a lot about transferable skills at
Yes.
JA and
Yeah.
how the things that you're passionate and excited about it. You may not be a great skateboarder, but you found a way to keep it
Yeah.
in your life and built some skills around that.
Yeah. Yeah. I really enjoyed making things that just were cool, like making things that made people feel something. And I know that sounds lame now to be saying in my 40s, but like, yeah, I like making cool stuff. So finding an opportunity to do that was what I wanted to do. And I really like the business side of it as well. Like, how can you solve a problem? How can you make a business aesthetically better, stronger, more interesting? That was always appealing to
Telling
me.
a strong story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. So when you think about those transferable skills
Mhm.
that you learned along the way, because you took a path that took you down a couple different avenues and you've landed in a space. Can you
Yeah.
think of some of the skills that you would have built while you were in high school that you've developed or worked on a little more, but that you still kind of use today?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I was, I'll be honest, I don't know if I was the strongest student in high school. Like, it's really funny when I think about my past. I struggled both equally with who I was, and then also struggled with like finding what was the right courses, what were the right things in school that really resonated with me. Um, I think the skills, like I used to produce like pep rally videos. We used to do things called pep rallies. I used to produce like fun little videos with friends, and that I really enjoyed, like putting together these sort of things to use for other people, putting on productions. I wasn't a big theater guy, but that was also kind of a similar sort of feeling that of things I got into. As far as skills though, like I blocked out a lot of high school. um, but it's funny because the minute I landed at MassCAD in university, and they have what's called a foundation year, which is really open and wide. And I'm not suggesting or trying to promote that university is the only path to somebody in our profession. It's oftentimes not. But what it gave me was like a good, solid view of all the different paths I could take. And one of the things is once I found this idea of design and commercial design, like being able to do something for a client. So it didn't feel like I had to worry about what does Sam think is the most creative or interesting thing. It was always much more easier when you were working for someone else and trying to make, the best restaurant logo that you could make or the best menu design for somebody. It felt like I could lean into that more. I got really passionate about it though. And I became, unfortunately, like my parents would have type A personalities that have passed on to me and my brother, but I became like, I was sitting in the front of the class of university every day. I was like on time. I was so passionate about it. And so I was lucky that I found that, some students I think graduate university or graduate high school. And the joke is always that at my graduation, everyone walks across the stage and they read out your name and they'll say, so and so is going to be going to St. Mary's in the new year, or so and so is going to be going to Dalhousie next year. And for me, it was like Sam Archibald, nothing, right? So I always felt like I was missing something because I didn't have that traditional background. But yeah, going back to your question to answer it, I mean, I don't know if I pulled a lot of great communication skills out of high school. I was probably not really great at it, but the ability for me to kind of dig in and make something that I'm passionate about, like with those pep rally videos, is probably the closest thing that's tangentially connected to school
Yeah.
that I did. And we had a film and television course in high school that I really loved. And that was another kind of thing that I latched onto. So,
It
yeah.
sounds like you've been able to blend this world of like creativity and
Yep.
communication with a service perspective,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what a day or a week in your life could look like? Is it the same every day? Is it different every day?
Yeah. I made some notes for this one because like it is it's very different. And my role currently, the company that I co-founded, and we work from home, so it's much different. Previously in my career, I was working for a larger organization, and they kept fairly regular hours, I would say around 9 to 5. But the kind of joke is that in our industry, it's a little bit flexible, right? Which I think might appeal to a lot of people. It appealed to me. I might, if because I work from home, I might roll into the office and start working maybe around 9:30. Like I'm not a super early riser. I do work late at night, and I appreciate that I can be really flexible with a lot of the clients I work with. But in terms of what I'm doing day to day, because I'm a business owner, some of the work I'm doing is not creative, not always solving problems, not always doing the thing that I might have a title for. Sometimes it's having communications. I've been in back-to-back meetings this morning with, I was speaking with a newcomer to Canada earlier about, he's a video editor from Iran and trying to find work. And I was just trying to help, which is not really applying to my business, but I was trying to help that individual like find opportunities or think about where he could network. Before that, I was speaking to another individual. And so like oftentimes it's a lot of conversations, a lot of emails. And then I can actually do the work, which sometimes doesn't start until after 5. So
I
yeah.
like the notion of flexibility though, because there's a lot of people in our world and a lot of youth who they're not morning people, they're night owls. They do their best work. And it's nice to know that there are opportunities out there. There are career opportunities that allow you to really play on those strengths, recognizing that just because you're not a morning person doesn't mean you can't be successful somewhere, and you can harness that the late night creativity that might drive you forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, um, when you think about the skill set that you use now on a regular basis, you've mentioned living in this world where you're both the creative and the business owner at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, can you tell me a little bit about the skills that you've built recently, or the things that you've really had to work towards, and how you may have done some of that?
Sure. I think it's still a work in progress, like many things in life.
Love.
Um, but I've spoken to a number of students, recent grads, whether they're recent grads from university or they're midway through the university journey, or maybe they're towards the end of high school and they're thinking about what do they want to be doing. And what always surprises me is there's always a lot of confidence that they can go and start a business, even be solo entrepreneurs. That always scared me. So I was really where I I unfortunately lean into the like not being good at math. My brother took all those genes, but I struggle at times with the mathematics, the understanding of forecasting out things like payroll, cash flow, understanding. I'm wasn't always the best at standing up from saying no. This project needs us to be paid this amount of money. Like I didn't always have that strong approach. I always wanted to help and solve problems for people, and we always want to put the most we can into it. Sometimes we don't have the resources to do everything that we imagine we'd want to be doing. We can't hire Steven Spielberg, or that's a really dated reference. We can't hire like some young director to come shoot a commercial for us. We don't have that kind of budget, especially here in Nova Scotia. So we have to be creative with things. But I would say that over the last 3 years since I started this business, which I was scared prior to that for about 2 years, from 2019 to 2021, there was about a 2 year period where I needed to work up the courage in order to actually start this business, leave my job, and say like, oh my gosh, like, am I going to do this on my own? How am I going to survive? And we talked to a lot. I talked to a lot of people, and you have to take that leap, and you kind of just the net will come. And I truly believe that if you're passionate about something, you will find work, whether that's work as an employee somewhere, or whether that's work as a freelancer, or whether that's work as a business owner. But I've definitely had to brush up on my understanding of just business, what matters to other business owners, what matters to people. We tend to work with marketers. So what's important to somebody who's working in a marketing department is really important for us to understand and have a solid understanding of that role and what they're expected to be delivering, because that's what we then need to translate. The graphic design, the copywriting, the production, all of that is a little bit easier for me to do. It's the understanding of someone's business, a cultural understanding of where are we right now in 2025. Human psychology, those are all skills that I've had to kind of brush up on, I would say more so in the last decade than from earlier on in my career.
And one last question for you.
Sorry. Yeah.
No worries. So the youth in the space, they're really thinking about where are we going next? What can I do? We're trying to talk about options, etc. What advice would you give to a group of high school youth right now, thinking of heading into the field that you're in?
I'd say first off, the piece of paper that you're going to receive at the end of your education journey doesn't matter as much as the institutions may want you to think it does. However, your body of work, your portfolio is generally more critical. And I will say that while I don't believe that university is right for everyone, it can be a really helpful place if you go into it with an open mind that what I explore and try here may not be what I end up doing. There's a lot of people who go to school for one thing and they end up in a field that's completely different from what they went to university for. If you have the means and the resources, if you can get a scholarship, if you can find a way to put yourself in university, what it will give you is that broader perspective on life, which I think can be helpful. And it's generally, I would say, a supportive environment, or at least it should be. I think there are fantastic options with organizations like the NSCC for those that feel like they have a strong passion for something like graphic design, visual arts, commercial arts. You could get into a program there and you could get a job, I think, generally much easier than if you went to a university. But what university will give you is a little bit of a broader perspective, maybe a little more, we like to say, theory versus practice. But that's just one avenue. And I would say my advice would be take advantage of, if they have portfolio nights, or if they are, sorry, not portfolio nights, but if they have, my alma mater where I graduated from was OCAD. And I recently helped a high school student out with trying to navigate what that might be to apply to that institution. And I was really surprised to see they have summer courses. They have opportunities for you to try something out at a very low risk to you financially, low risk from a commitment, and try it and see if you like it. And try to find your voice in what you want to do, and don't let others, whether those others be your family, those others be culture, those others be your perception of what you need to be in life. You really need to figure out what makes you happy, which is a lifelong thing, but you need to figure out what you're passionate about. So that'd be my best advice.
Well, Sam, thank you for joining us today and having this conversation with us, and sharing the journey that you've taken to get to your creative space.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Back over to you, Julie.
So our second speaker today is Emma Unsworth, who is a cabinet maker by trade and currently working at Skills Canada Nova Scotia as the Apprenticeship Pathways Project Lead in conjunction with the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency. The NSAA Pathways Project introduced a new online self-directed training model designed to support apprentices and skilled trade employers. Unlike traditional training, self-directed training allows apprentices to access course content online. They can complete the material at their own pace and on their own schedule, providing flexibility for both apprentices and employers. Apprentices must secure employment with a certified journey person and register as an apprentice to access their logbooks and training materials. Emma, thank you so much for joining us today. And Shannon, back to you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me as well.
Hi, Emma.
Hi.
What an interesting journey. So a cabinet maker and now supporting others entering into the trades.
Yeah. It's been a varied journey, to be honest. I actually started Well, I started actually working in theatre. So I used to do set design and prop making and set construction. I used to be a stage manager. I worked all over the world. And then life happens and life changes. So as I kind of moved away, basically I had a family, and touring the world, as glamorous as it is, isn't designed for a family. So I moved away and started working more in a university setting, actually, as a technical manager, supporting students at an arts university in the UK in accessing technical equipment in order to follow their journeys. Part of that was achieved because I had a background in the set construction and the creative industries. So I was able to do that. And then as I moved to Canada in 2018, it wasn't as easy to get those type of roles. So we ended up just starting our own business because it felt like the only way we could really get started again out here was to kind of start for ourselves. So so we ended up that. And then after we'd started the business, this opportunity came up for Skills Canada to help support finishing trades accessing a different route to their education in order to support kind of trying to find a way of building these pathways up to a state where they could follow a more traditional pathway. Right now, they're very low volume trades, and we need to encourage more people into them. And we're stuck in the catch-22 of wanting to kind of build it, but not having anywhere for them to go. So we've had to start building the baseball field, which again might be a reference not everyone will get. But
you used a term that I think some of our youth might not be familiar with, the term finishing trades.
Okay. I thought it was going to be a British thing then, because I do that all the time where I use a phrase that's really British and everyone's very baffled. So the finishing trades, they're renownedly the last ones that go into a building, effectively. So when a building has been constructed, the foundations are there, the framing's gone up, the roof is on, the siding's there, everything's good to go. You then have the finishing trades that go in and finish the building. So that's the painters, the drywallers, the cabinet makers, the tile setters, floor coverers. They all go in and make it livable.
Okay, so it's that last step. It's that we have a shell, we're weather tight, but now we want to make it habitable and comfortable and beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, and tell me a little bit about what brought you into that type of trade. You mentioned starting in set design, that type of thing. I'm going to take you back. So how did you finish your public schooling in whatever way, shape, or form? And then what was your journey like?
So I kind of took a relatively traditional pathway. We call it secondary school. So I finished secondary school. I went to college, which is a college, not a university, and then I went on to university. I did English theatre and media drama at university. When I graduated, the hope was that I'd become like an actor or a director, and then I realized I was terrible. So that was probably not going to be the avenue that was safe for me to get employment and keep a roof over my head. So I ended up applying for work within the technical aspects of theatre. We had a local theatre near me that did summer seasons, which are like a really big thing in the UK, where it's like you go to the seaside and there's a theatre there and they'll have big performances on. So I ended up getting a summer job there. And then it rolled into a winter job for pantomime, which is a big thing in the UK as well. And then I started getting offers of employment to start working on tours. And a lot of that was about moving set and moving scenery and fixing the set and fixing the scenery. So as you loaded it onto the truck and you took it to a new venue, it came off and there'd be repairs that would need to be done. So not just structural repairs to the actual wooden framing, but there'll be like painting that would be needed to be done to kind of make the repairs blend in. And so I started picking up all these skills from kind of having to repair lots of different mediums, lots of different material, lots of different situations, lots of different damage. So that's kind of where that side of it built up, really. And then from that, I ended up going into a lot of prop making. So like building specific props for shows that you couldn't just buy off the shelf. It had to be something that was specifically made. And then doing set designs and constructing the sets as well for smaller tours and smaller venues. And then it kind of just built up from there, really.
So taking that passion for theater and using it in a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
finding a way to still be a part of this industry that you were really excited about, and bringing a skilled side to it. Can you tell me more about this Pathways project?
Sure. So the Pathways project was introduced by the government, the Nova Scotia government, as a way of it came in as part of the most incentive, which is more opportunities for skilled trade. So it was an initiative that came in 2022 that gave a tax break to those registered as an apprentice or working as a journey person under the age of 35, who was working within the trade, any of the trade sectors within the province. What it highlighted was that there was a lot of apprenticeship programs that didn't have pathways. So we might have people working in the industry, but they weren't entitled to access it because they had to be registered as an apprentice to get the tax break.
Yep.
So what was decided is that we would start with 8 trades, all construction and industrial manufacturing, and we would start building up a trade for them. So we would start building up a pathway. So it went from taking a curriculum document that is written at the federal level, leveling it out and determining what an apprentice would need to learn in levels 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on the years of their trade. And then once that logbook was leveled out, which is the first step of an apprenticeship, is to get your logbook and to start signing off your skills, we would write the theoretical training that would go with that. So all tradespeople, I feel, would agree that it's a much better idea to have a practical setting for technical training. But in this case, we were trying to create a bridging element where we could still allow them to follow the pathway and then build up the trade enough that hopefully in a couple of years' time, we would be able to go into a traditional format for it. So this was just like a bridging project. So my role in it is to literally write the technical training for the 7 finishing trades. So from the health and safety unit to the blueprints to the design, I write units on computer-aided design, on numerical CNC machines. Can't remember what they stand for now. I use them all the time and every day, but I can't remember. I write on concrete, on formwork, like you name it, and I write the technical training. And then I work with an amazing group of experts that tell me how wrong I've got it. And then we work together to create it and move it through. And then we have a team of instructional designers who then take all the content that we've worked through and validated and put it into a learning management system that the apprentice will then be given access to when that level is validated and becomes available.
So it's created I don't want to call it informal because it's not informal, but like a different path, a non-traditional. It's not through college, not through university, but an opportunity to formally train in an area that there was not previously formal training for.
Yeah, exactly. And it breaks down quite a number of barriers. You don't have to have a certain amount of knowledge behind you. As long as you can find somebody that will take you on and work with you, you can start that technical training immediately. And the idea is that some of this technical training is supposed to be upfront. So in a traditional pathway, you would have to do 1,800 hours before you would be eligible to enter your level 1.
Yeah.
This way, as soon as you're registered, you can actually get access to that technical training, that theoretical training to help you build up your knowledge. It means that we can access rural communities. It means that people aren't having to travel to NSCC buildings or third-party training providers all across the province to the one section that might do their training that they need. They can do it from their own home in their own time. Employers aren't losing 8 weeks of an apprentice while they go to that block training, so it's easier for them to schedule. Like I said, it's still not ideal because they're not fully getting the hands on, but it definitely opens up and breaks down a lot of barriers that we're definitely seeing some positive communication from.
That's wonderful. It's really great to see opportunities for those who are interested in something to not have to leave home, essentially, to be able to do it. That's really exciting. So we are chatting with a bunch of youth and sharing these videos with youth across Nova Scotia. What advice would you give them, those who are looking to head into a finishing trade?
Wow. Be prepared. It's hard. Like, there's no point in sugarcoating it. It's a lot of hard work. There's a learning curve to be had. But I think if it's something that you really can connect with, like for me with woodworking and cabinet making, there was an end result that felt like I was achieving something. Like there was something that was being designed. Like I work with clients, we look at a space, we talk through things with them, we create their vision, we go through, like, there's a whole process, and then at the end of it we give them something back that is a finished, achievable thing that we can say we did that. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits to a lot of the trades, not just within construction but within service, manufacturing, anything, is this kind of real tangible result. So I think if you like to feel that what you're doing has an end result, it's a nice way to go, because the job always has to be finished, so there's always an end result.
Yeah, and pride in that work, pride in having achieved that.
100%. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today and for being a part of our World of Choices program.
Thank you for having me. It's much appreciated.
You as well. Julie, back over to you.
So we have Justin Ian Lee, our third speaker, the owner and operator of Double Ghost Merch Co. With over 20 years of experience, Double Ghost Merch Co. specializes in designing and producing high-quality, limited edition merchandise that people actually want to wear. Based in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Double Ghost refers to the invisible partners and behind-the-scenes collaborators that contribute to their successes. The company was started to help businesses create meaning in their merch, because today slapping a logo on a product isn't enough. And by combining premium designs with top quality products, they ensure that your customers will love and will wear your merch.
Hi, Justin.
Hey, Shannon. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well. This is great. I'm really enjoying all of this.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And I know, Justin, you have had a non-traditional path to where you are as well.
I've had about as non-traditional as you can get, I think.
Which is great. That's part of why we feature all of this in the World of Choices. So tell us a little bit about how you ended up starting Double Ghost Merch. What was your journey?
Oh, man. So Sam covered my whole life. So if you guys want to go back to his, he covered it all. So right down to like the skate videos and everything. So, and like not being good at math, like all of these things. So when I was in high school, there wasn't really anybody that did the stuff that we did. Like it was, instead of going in the video direction, I went in like graffiti and breakdancing. So that's what I got out of like skateboarding. I sucked at skateboarding, but I could draw. So I kind of was always doing that. So nobody around me was an artist growing up. I grew up in a hockey town where if you didn't play hockey, you got beat up. So I got beat up. I got bullied all the time. Oh, let's go, Sam. That's great. Sam was also a breakdancer. So I got bullied a lot growing up. I'm not the best reader. I'm still not. For anybody that also struggles with reading, watching this, audiobooks will become a real good friend of yours as you get older. Hi, Louis, can you get out of here? Sorry, my dog was asleep the whole time. And as soon as you asked me a question, he's like, what's under your desk? So I didn't really have anybody that owned a business or was an artist or anything. So I was a terrible student, like a nice kid, and everybody, I was fine. I would float around social circles or whatever, but I never really found a place, and I didn't really know what to do. And I had no plans for after school. I think it was May of my graduating year, May. So like a month and a half before the world is like, figure it out. I applied to art school. So I applied to NASCAD and got in, but it wasn't really what I was looking for. So I went to animation school. So I did 3 years in animation school. I didn't get a mark over, like, I got so many like 60s and 70s in high school, and I just was not a good student. I hated being there, but I knew I had to graduate. But then when I went to art school, I don't think I had a mark below 98. I had 100 in a couple of courses. I was the valedictorian of both of the programs I was in. And it was a big testament to kind of finding the thing you like and chasing after it. So I was an animation student for a long time, and then went into the industry. I worked for about 15 years in the animation industry. I worked for Marvel. I got to work for Nickelodeon and like Snoop Dogg and TBS and MTV, and I directed some music videos and I won some awards, and it was a lot of fun. But eventually, stuff like that, like when you're kind of built the way that I'm assuming everybody in here is built, you work at a job and it's about 3 to 6 months before you're like, holy God, I got to get out of here. Like I hated working for other people. I hated the whole process. I hated building someone else's dream, but I didn't really know how to build my own. So I, well, I got fired. The one and only time I got fired, I was at a studio. Things were going great until they weren't. And then I got fired. It was the first time in my life I ever got fired. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I eventually took my old boss out to like lunch, and I was like, thank you. And he was like, people don't take me out for firing them. And I was like, no, man, you made a decision for me that I was never going to make for myself, and kind of sent me out into the world to figure it all out. And that drive for not wanting to work for anybody is still still very much there, and it's still the driving force behind everything I do. I never want to be in an office ever again. It's the best. So after I was fired from a studio, I took that as my opportunity to kind of build. I had to prove to myself that I could do sales, because I know I can talk, but I could never really. I was like, can I convert that into money? Turns out, yes, I can. And I went and got some sales data. So I did door-to-door sales for Bell Alliant. You know, those guys that like knock on your door and they sell you like cell phone and internet and all that garbage. So I did that for a year and I crushed it. And it is not for everybody. In fact, it's barely for anyone. It was brutal. It was a brutal training ground, but that's kind of what I wanted. Somebody told me one time, if you can do door-to-door sales, you can sell anything. So I did that for a year, and then I kind of came to the end of it. I sold myself into a big corporate role at Staples head office. Don't know how I did that. And then the pandemic hit. So I was like, all right, well, I could work for them and not know what's going to happen, or I could build something myself and not know what's going to happen. So to me, it was the same result. So I quit. It was like 3 weeks into the pandemic, and I was like, bye. And then I just went and opened I opened a hat company. And that exploded. And then people started asking me if I make t-shirts, and I didn't, but I went and figured it out. And then they would ask me if I made hoodies, and I didn't yet. So I started figuring all that out, and then brought in my illustration chops. And now I just illustrate and design hats and hoodies and packaging and beer labels. And I did like a hot sauce advent calendar this year, which was insane. I work for like a couple of different comedians, like some AAA, like Tom Segura and Theo Vaughn. And I just got a shipment of t-shirts in that I designed for them. Yeah. So some Theo Vaughn stuff, which nobody has seen yet, which I'm excited. So there you go. I don't know if anybody knows who Theo Vaughn is, but he's a great comedian. Anyway, I got to do all kinds of stuff like that now, which is awesome. And I wouldn't be here unless I got fired.
Sometimes, and Sam mentioned that too, needing to take a leap or being forced to take
It's very
a leap.
much it's very much a leap of faith to borrow from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is a very topical reference in my house right now because I just finished playing Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation. It was great.
So another really creative piece where even from high school, you had a creative perspective and really wanting to do something on your own, which I think resonates with a lot of people in terms of I don't want to follow somebody else's path. I loved what you stated about building other people's dreams. I wanted to build my own, like do my own thing.
Yeah, I don't know where I heard this, but this was a catalyst for bringing my business off of Instagram and into like the real world. Which, by the way, if you have a business that solely lives on Instagram, you do not have a business. That drives me crazy. Because if Instagram shuts down tomorrow, then you didn't build anything. So the saying that I'll offer up to anybody listening is, don't build your mansion on someone else's property. That to me was a really defining factor in taking my hat company from just a thing that existed on Instagram over into the B2B world and like actually sell to businesses. Because I couldn't, what was I going to be like 65 being like, who wants a Pepsi hat? Like, who cares? It's insane. So I had to build a thing. So I had to get off Instagram. So yeah, I would offer that piece of advice for sure is don't build your mansion on someone else's property. Very important.
And I like the piece too about like taking on a challenge. I want to prove to myself that I can do something and taking that sales gig. Because a big part of owning your own business is being able to sell your wares, whether that's a service, whether that's a product, being able to have that conversation and communicate what it is that you are that is different from everything else out there.
Yeah, and it gets, Sam, I'm sure can attest to this as well as everybody else, but you wear every hat when you own a business and you're not going to wear them all really well. And learning where those pain points are and those bottlenecks, like time management is, oh my God, I'm so bad at it. I'm terrible at it. And it's really burnt me still. Like I'm 40, every now and then it'll still scorch me. And I'm like, God, but it's just because you're wearing so many hats. So you kind of have to learn how to juggle a little bit and give some time to something over here that you're really terrible at, like time management or math and finances. Holy, pay your taxes.
And I imagine that sometimes like you just have to ask for some help,
which I am horrific at. I have had to learn how to do that. And I think everybody's probably finds it difficult, but that was just one of the traits that I had growing up, was just asking for help, which is not a thing. It's not that I avoided it. I just didn't know that you could. And then as a result, never did. And then I shut off entirely to that whole thing. So learning how to kind of ask for help and be grateful for other people and their time and all that stuff. Basically learning how to not be a selfish idiot was a big part of like my 30s.
So I'm going to hit you with my last question too. One piece of advice for youth looking to head into a creative field.
I'm going to take this down a direction that we haven't touched on yet, because I've been thinking about it. Three pieces of advice I will offer is, first of all, pay your taxes. Taxes are a nightmare, but pay them. We were doing our taxes on our own when we first started business. We did them right, but we didn't save enough. And then we ended up owing a bunch, and then we paid it off. It was fine. But yeah, make sure you're on top of your taxes. Hire somebody for that. The biggest thing I would say is, especially for creatives, stay away from alcohol. Holy smokes. Stay away from it. It'll get you. And especially in this province, especially with the all kinds of things, stay away from it. It'll help you in the long run. I say that from personal experience. And lastly, to help with that, exercise. Holy smokes. Mental health is the most important thing. If you got exercise under control, you don't drink, and you're grateful every day, it doesn't matter what you're going to do. You're going to do it really well because you're going to be mentally prepared. You're going to be galvanized. You're going to be ready for all the things that are going to come at you. But yeah, I would 100% recommend treating your mental health as the priority. And then the rest of the stuff, it won't be stressful or difficult. You'll be able to do it as long as you're exercising. Go for a run every day, half an hour.
Justin, thank you for your time. And just let everybody know, Justin is also volunteers with us.
That's true. Yeah.
So thank Justin for his time in so many ways.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure. I thoroughly enjoy the mentorship process. So it's been awesome. Thanks for having me.
Julie, back over to you.
Our fourth and final speaker today is Arianna Antonucci. She is the technical director at Creative Curve Media Group, Inc. Creative Curve Media Group specializes in empowering small and medium businesses with essential marketing solutions. From graphic design and web development to print services, they provide the tools needed to market your business efficiently. Their commitment to ethical business practices have also been recognized. Creative Curve Media Group was a finalist in the 2013 Better Business Bureau Business Ethics Awards and then went on to win the prestigious award in 2017 for all of Atlantic Canada. As proud members of their community, this team loves what they do and takes pride in being a trusted creative partner to businesses throughout Halifax and beyond. Their size is their strength, allowing them to work with efficiency, passion, and care, all while delivering high quality, impactful results.
Hi, Arianna.
Hi, how are you doing?
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's so exciting.
We're having some great conversations today with people who live in the creative space of the industries around us. And I'd love to hear a little bit about what you love to do in that creative space and how you got there.
Yeah, so I guess mine is very tech-based, but I haven't always been interested in those things. So in high school, I did not know what I wanted to do when I graduated. I left it until the very, very, very last minute. Um, like, I think when I walked across the stage, they just said my name because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I wanted to go. But what I settled on, which was very popular at the time, was doing a computer science degree. Um, so basically, I decided to go with computer science, and I ended up really loving it, which was a crazy leap of faith to take because I had never programmed a day in my life or anything like that. But I ended up really liking it, specifically more the creative parts of it. So, what I do for a job now is I design websites. That involves a lot of user interface and user experience design. And yeah, that's basically where I landed. I was always very creative growing up, and I knew I wanted to do something with that, despite being a lot of people telling me I should go into um, the sciences in general because I had very good grades in math and science, but I really wanted to do something creative. It just felt more fulfilling, I guess. So yeah, that's where I ended up landing as technical director.
It sounds like you took the opportunity and that passion for creative, but then also that like innate know-how around the techie pieces and blended them
Hmm.
together.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely like kind of what I did. I've been always very familiar with tech things. Like I can remember going to sketchy websites to download movies when I was a kid, like just because I wanted to see the most recent Harry Potter movie or something. So I've always been very tech inclined, but I'm really, really glad that I found a way to combine those two things. So I'm doing something that's kind of a happy medium in between everything.
There's a lot of really specific skills that go into the UI UX, the user interface, user experience design in behind.
Absolutely,
Um,
yep.
I know because you help us on a very regular basis make all of the background pieces work. Can you describe to me what are the skills or the pieces that you really enjoy about what you do now?
Yeah, so I would consider myself a perfectionist, which can be not great at times, but when it comes to design, I find it's very helpful. So I will make sure things are perfectly aligned, very detail oriented. I don't want to give like a subpar product to anyone. I want to make sure it is as close to perfect as we're gonna get. Now, obviously, you got to be realistic about that. You're never gonna get it 100%. So part of this is also taking a step back from my perfectionism and being like, okay, it doesn't need to be so perfect that like these things that no one else is going to see almost that don't matter. You don't want to beat yourself up over that. It's good to have that eye, but focusing on the main picture is always more important because When you're working as a web designer and UI UX, um, although you have certain opinions, it's also super important to get your clients' opinions. And maybe they don't even like the thing that you're fussing over. So it's good to have that communication. So you don't waste your time and you can do everything very efficiently, but still provide like a good product.
It sounds like there's a little bit of balance to be found in the creative space in terms of like what you want
Absolutely.
and how you want it to be, but also recognizing that more often than not, you're working for a client who also has a
Exactly.
want and a desire.
Hmm.
So if you were talking to youth who were thinking of heading into this very technical but still creative space, what advice would you give them around skills that they could be working on now?
Someone mentioned it earlier. I can't remember which speaker did, but someone mentioned something about a portfolio. And I wish I started on mine so much sooner. Even if you don't have anything high level, everyone wants you to be able to basically prove you can do what you do, which makes sense, definitely. But it's hard when you don't have an extensive portfolio that really showcases your skills and what you're able to do. And I find that like as my career grows, I'm definitely able to put those pieces together. But if I could go back, I would be like, I wish I started this so much sooner. Whether it's just like simple drawings or simple mock-ups of websites, like nothing too technical, but just to show that you have like an idea of how things work and how things go together. So much better than having nothing, for sure.
So talking to your high school self, you just mentioned like simple mock-ups, sketches,
Mhm.
things. Is there anything else that you would tell your high school self to have included in that portfolio?
Um, I think having a range is very important. So being able to design for multiple size screens, being able to develop for like different mediums as well, like a website versus an app is going to have a slightly different interface. And just knowing all those different pieces because as a technical director, UI UX developer, graphic or whatever you want to throw me under, um, I think range is so important because in the tech community, they really want you to be able to do it all. And you don't have to have to do everything 100%. It's so good to be able to specialize too, but having a little know-how of everything is super helpful and it helps if you're working in a big group too because if you're making a design that someone else needs to code, it's good to have an idea of the basics. So you're not making something that's like a nightmare to code or anything. Like you want it to work, you want it to be good, and you want to think of all the other pieces that are going to fit together.
It sounds like you work often in a team.
Right now I don't, but I used to. So this is my co-op placements that I did during Dalhousie University. I worked in three different places. I worked once for a university, once in a huge company, and once in a startup. And for a huge company and startup, sometimes university level too, but you really do work with teams. And when you're working for a small company like I am now, or like a startup, you're a really big cog in a wheel, and they need you to know these things because no one else does. And it's like without adding a lot of pressure because it's not complicated at all. You just need to have a wide view for everything and a little bit of know-how and use that brain power. But I would say for tech as a whole, we do definitely work in a team. It's a lot easier with a team too. You get those second opinions. It's nice not to have to rely only on yourself.
Now you mentioned, and Julie's going to get mad at me because she told me I had one question left, but I'm going to use two. You mentioned in university having gone through a co-op experience. Would you recommend
Yes.
that for our high school students as well?
I would absolutely recommend that. The co-op experience is so good. And it's low stakes too. You get to explore different sectors. So like what I did work for, like I said, university, huge company, and then a startup. And I felt that that was like kind of the three places you can work in tech. And trying out every one of them really let me know like what I like to do and where I wanted to be and what kind of work environment I wanted to be in. And you just learn so much more in a co-op than you can learn in university because you're learning from other professionals that are working in the field at that moment and you have projects to work on. It's invaluable, like truly.
That's great. Now, you've given our youth a bunch of advice, build a portfolio, take some co-op opportunities. Anything else you'd like to leave them with?
Um, I think the previous speaker said it best. Mental health is so important. Like nothing is going to be worth as much as it is your sanity, truly. Like take care of yourself first and foremost. Everything else will fall into place eventually. It might seem like the world is ending, but you just got to power through it and really take care of yourself. It's so important to build those habits, and it just gives you such a better base for everything else in life.
I love that. The advice of building healthy habits early. Arianna,
Mhm.
thank you so much for joining us today. And one more thank you to everyone who joined us to speak today. No, a genuine thank you to all of you for coming and speaking with us today. The creative industries here in Nova Scotia are just so impressive, and there's so many different paths to take. So I do hope that our youth have learned something with us today, and look forward to speaking with you all again in the future.